Sebastian had a way of getting under my skin. He was relentless, charming, and entirely too perceptive for his own good. In the days since the troll attack, he'd given me space, but not too much. It was as though he knew I needed to breathe but wouldn't let me drift too far out of reach. A few nights ago, as we wandered the grounds after curfew, I learned why. We ended up at the ruins near the forest's edge, sitting on an old stone wall as the wind whispered through the trees. It was there that Sebastian told me about his sister Anne, and the curse that had left her in constant pain. His voice was steady, but there was an undercurrent of anger, raw and unrelenting, when he spoke of his uncle Solomon.
He's supposed to be protecting her, but all he does is lecture me about staying out of it, as if sitting on the sidelines is going to help her.
You're just trying to find answers. That's not something to be ashamed of.
He doesn't see it that way. To him, I'm reckless, stubborn. But Anne doesn't have time for caution, and I'll do whatever it takes to help her.
Even if it means breaking the rules?
Especially if it means breaking the rules.
I could see the fire in his eyes, the desperation to save his sister no matter the cost. It was that same fire, I realized, that made him so relentless with me. He understood what it meant to carry a burden too heavy to bear alone. And in that moment, I felt the first stirrings of trust, not just in him, but in the possibility that I didn't have to face my secrets alone. But old habits die hard. Even after his confession, I kept my own secrets close, too afraid of what might happen if I let them out. That fear lingered for days, growing heavier with each passing hour, until tonight. The Slytherin common room was quieter than usual, most of the students having gone to bed. I sat near the emerald-lit fireplace, the warmth doing little to ease the chill that had settled over me. When Sebastian walked in, his expression changed the moment he saw me. He hesitated for only a second before joining me.
You look like you've seen a ghost.
Close enough.
All right, Velmont, spill it. Whatever's been eating at you these past few days, I want to know.
You always want to know, don't you?
Guilty as charged. But it's not just curiosity. I've seen the way you've been looking over your shoulder. Something's wrong, and I'd bet my wand it's bigger than Rookwood.
It is.
Then stop shutting me out and tell me.
The words hung in the air between us, his eyes fixed on mine with a determination that made it clear he wasn't going to let this go. I hesitated, the weight of the truth pressing down on me. Sebastian wasn't just prying, he genuinely wanted to help. But ancient magic wasn't something you could explain easily. It wasn't something you could even prove to most people. But Sebastian wasn't most people. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding as I decided to trust him. You're right. It's bigger than Rookwood. It's something I don't fully understand myself.
Then start with what you do understand.
It's hard to put into words. Have you ever heard of something called ancient magic?
Ancient magic?
I didn't think you would have. It's not something you'd find in a textbook. It's rare. So rare that I don't think anyone in this castle knows it exists, except me.
All right, you've got my attention. What exactly is it?
It's a kind of magic, but it's not like the spells we learn in class or the incantations we practice. It's older, more raw. I don't know where it comes from, but I can feel it, see it. Sometimes it's like it's guiding me.
You can see it?
Not all the time, but there are traces, like the glow near the astronomy tower the other night. That wasn't just my imagination. It was ancient magic.
And no one else can see it?
Not that I know of. It's like it's tied to me somehow.
I watched her carefully as she spoke, the way her fingers fidgeted with the edge of her cloak, the way her voice softened when she said the word ancient. She wasn't making this up. I'd seen enough liars in my time to know the difference. And yet, the idea of magic that no one else could see, magic older than Hogwarts itself, was almost impossible to believe. Almost. If this magic is so rare, how do you even know what it's called?
Professor Fig mentioned it once, right after I arrived at Hogwarts. He didn't say much, just that it's dangerous and powerful. But he didn't tell me why I can see it, or why it seems to follow me.
Dangerous and powerful? Sounds like my kind of thing.
Sebastian, I'm serious. If Rookwood finds out about this...
He won't. Not if I have anything to say about it.
You don't understand. He already suspects something. He knows I'm different.
Then we'll make sure he doesn't get close enough to find out. And in the meantime, we figure this out. Together.
What do you mean?
I mean, you're not the only one who needs answers. I told you about Anne. About how the curse is slowly destroying her. If there's even the smallest chance we can find something in this castle that could help her, I'll take it.
The restricted section?
Exactly. If there's anything worth knowing about curses, or ancient magic, it's bound to be in there.
Breaking into the restricted section isn't exactly easy, you know. There are enchantments, patrols...
Please, you're talking to the master of sneaking out. I've been dodging prefects since my first week here.
And what happens if we get caught?
Then I'll take the fall. You've got enough to deal with already.
I'm not letting you do that.
Then don't let us get caught.
It wasn't the most reassuring plan, but it was all we had. Sebastian was right. If there were answers to be found, they'd be hidden deep within the restricted section. And if he was willing to risk everything to save his sister, the least I could do was stand by his side. For the first time since arriving at Hogwarts, I felt like I wasn't alone in this.
Eveleigh didn't realise it yet, but she'd already won me over. There was no way I was letting her face this Rookwood character, or whatever this ancient magic was, on her own. This wasn't just about helping her figure out what made her different. It was about proving to her, and to myself, that we could take on anything together.
The night stretched on as we worked out the details of our plan. By the time we finally headed back to the dormitory, the castle was silent, the shadows long and still. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of the Slytherin girls' dormitory, I felt a strange sense of calm. It wasn't that the danger had passed or that my questions had been answered. It was that, for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to face it all alone. For the first time since I arrived at Hogwarts, I felt the weight of my secrets lighten. It wasn't just the way Sebastian listened or the way he promised to stand by me. It was the way he looked at me, like I wasn't something to fear but someone worth fighting for. And in that moment, against all my better judgment, I knew I was falling for him.
As I watched Eveleigh retreat to her dormitory, her silhouette disappearing into the shadows, I couldn't shake the feeling that the pieces of my life were finally starting to fit together, just not in the way I'd expected. Anne's suffering had consumed me for so long, driving every thought, every decision. And yet, tonight, standing beside Eveleigh, I'd felt something I hadn't in years. Purpose. It wasn't just about saving Anne anymore. Eveleigh was a mystery, one I could spend a lifetime unraveling and never fully understand. But she was also unyielding, strong in ways she didn't even realize yet. The kind of strength you could cling to when everything else felt like it was slipping away. And for reasons I couldn't quite explain, I knew I'd do whatever it took to protect her. Rookwood. Ancient magic. The lies and secrets surrounding this castle. They were threats to her, and now they were threats to me. I'd seen what the world could do to people like Anne, to people who deserved better. I wouldn't let it happen again. Not to Eveleigh. If breaking into the restricted section was what it took to find answers for both of us, then so be it. I wasn't afraid of bending a few rules, or breaking them entirely. Because when I looked at her, I didn't just see the answers to my questions. I saw something worth fighting for, and if it came down to it, I'd fight for her, to my last breath.